A group of rebels had surrounded his villa. He walked in completely unknowing into a scene with rebels with semi-automatics, automatics. One of them raised his gun and fired at him.
It is said that after the revolution's over, the first thing the incoming government has to do is to shoot the revolutionaries because they cause trouble by nature. I'm Andrew Rule, this is Life and Crimes, and today we have a truly distinguished guest at Life and Crimes. Paul Toohey has been one of the finest journalists in this country for decades, and that is from the heart. I think he's one of the very best, and I still look up stories he wrote to see how he wrote them. And I'm so pleased that he has produced a new book. He's written others, but the new one is called The Fatal Island. And it's his, I would say, looking back through the wrong end of a telescope, or the other end of a telescope, at events that unfolded in East Timor, as we used to call it, a couple of decades ago. Is that a crude summary?
Well, thanks, first of all, for having me here. I suppose a lot has been written about the intervention when Timor was liberated in 1999, the Australian-led intervention. Less so about the 2006 to 2009 period, where a rebel gang arose. The country was split in half. Yep. There was almost civil war a couple of times, and it ended up with the President, José Ramos Horta, being shot in the back.
Which is how your book starts?
Which is how the book starts.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, with him being airlifted to Darwin.
So there's a crime right there. We're Life and Crimes, and his life almost ended with a crime.
It came very close to ending right there. He was coming home from his morning walk on February 11, 2008. A group of rebels had surrounded his villa. He walked in completely unknowing into a scene with rebels with semi-automatics, automatics. One of them raised his gun and fired at him. He saw this gun being raised at him. He turned his back. He was shot twice, fell down into a storm drain. He had a close security guard with him who fired shots at the rebel who'd shot him, missed, all the shots went wide, and the rebels ran. Simultaneously up in the hills at Balabar, where Prime Minister Xanana Gusmão lived, another group of rebels connected to these ones down at Ramos Horta's place learned that Alfredo had been shot dead in the president's compound and responded and launched an ambush on Xanana Gusmão's vehicle.
Right, so these rebels, of course, are followers of the rebel leader, a charismatic sort of ultra male machismo sort of guy, a sort of poor man's Che Guevara.
Yeah, minus the politics.
Minus the politics. Alfredo, that's right. Alfredo Renato, he's a fascinating character, the way you draw his portrait. There are several interesting characters in your book, which, if probably simplified, would make a very fine film of some sort, where you've got him.
Let's talk it up.
Let's talk it up. The book is called, of course, The Fatal Island, which nails it very neatly. It was indeed a fatal island for a lot of people. And lucky you got out alive. You and Lindsay Murdoch and various other correspondents led dangerous lives there for a while.
Yeah. Lindsay did more in the 1999 period. I think he saw some pretty bad things. Yeah.
It drove him to drink on age expenses.
Would
that be right?
I think that had already started.
Oh, that had already started. Okay.
It could be a bit of a touch and go place. It can be a very bad tempered place at times. You know, you could be driving in the 2006 period when it basically started with a whole group of soldiers within the army became very discontent. They were Westerners, meaning they were from closer to the West Timor border, and because of that, Easterners, who were mainly thought to be more responsible and heroic for fighting the Indonesians, overlooked them for promotion within Battalion 1, which was the only battalion that East Timor had post-liberation.
Yes.
600 of them walked out, demanding better conditions and pay and more promotions. Their brigadier didn't like that and said no, and basically they went off to become known as the petitioners. They were joined by Western-born citizens
Right.
who had a long-standing beef with Eastern-born citizens.
Which goes a long way back, as happens in a lot of countries. These ancient sort of semi-tribal
Yes.
hostilities linger,
Yes.
as does religions and beliefs
Yeah, very much
under
so.
the surface.
I mean, and under the surface, because to look at these people, they have very, very much the same lives. They're not distinguishable.
You make a point that to an outsider, you'd hardly know one villager from another on appearance, but they know instantly that guy there comes from 20 kilometres that direction.
That's right.
They know the difference instinctively.
They just know. Like in Aboriginal Australia up north, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
I know who you are and where you're from.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So these people were originally led by a guy called Lieutenant Salsina, who was quite an uncharismatic guy. But Alfredo Renato, who once led the two-boat East Timorese Navy. Yes, two speedboats.
Was he in the fast one? Was he in the better one?
He once led that. He got kind of demoted and put in the military police.
Right.
Because he'd misbehaved. He'd got a girl pregnant in Australia. And
He was a what used to be known as a ladies' man.
Yes.
And also possibly a man's man, which means ladies' man is
They mean the same
serial.
thing,
Well, ladies' man is a serial lecher, and a man's man is a bash artist. He was probably both.
I don't think it was the latter. According to his wife.
Okay.
According to his wife, his true wife.
Oh, the one who had the children.
Yeah.
Yes, I felt for her. She's a sympathetic figure in your book. But the standout colourful ones to a simple reader like myself are Renato and his latter girlfriend, Angie Perez. And also when she ends up in big strife because of these shootings,
she's accused of
being behind it.
Renato,
and then, of course, the great Darwin Silk, KC nowadays, QC in the old days, Mr. John Tippett turns up to represent her because Angie had once lived in Australia and therefore was entitled to Australian taxpayers' funds to defend herself. Yep. And this meant that John Tippett, QC, could come in and defend her to the full extent of his abilities. And he promptly falls in love with her, which I think maybe you'd warned him against.
Yeah, I had, because Angie Perez was in...
You knew them both, so you got
I was interviewing Angie.
Yeah.
And, she became aware of this Attorney General's fund, which the Barley Nine and Chappelle Corby had used. Yeah. It was unlimited if you were in serious trouble abroad, and it was called the Serious Crimes Abroad Scheme.
Yeah.
And she became aware of that, and she said she was going to get some famous, Jeffrey Robertson QC from London to come and defend her human rights. And I said to her, well, you probably need someone who is not going to make a performance, but just go through and give you a defence. Yeah. And I knew John Tippett QC, who lived in Darwin, which is 50 minutes flying time from Dili.
Very good.
As distinct from London.
Yep.
And, and so I said, you should look at this guy. He's very good. And he is good. And she sort of said, okay. And then I went home, and then I saw Tippett was making plans to go over there to meet her. He got the job. He started acting for Angie Perez as they fought this case together and living in a foreign country.
They were locked in hotel rooms preparing their case.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Amplified sense of like foreboding and like a lot at stake.
There was.
A lot at stake. And, in situations like that, anything can happen. I warned him. I warned him to be careful. She's a beautiful woman. You might just fall in love with her. And he said I was being ridiculous, and he promptly did fall in love with her.
Immediately. Yeah. Within hours.
Probably, I'd say, within hours.
And I don't want to be rude about Angie Perez, but she strikes me just reading between the lines, really, that she's quite a forceful personality with a lot of charm. How would you describe her, into a microphone?
Well, I would say she's a force of nature. She's very beautiful. She's very persuasive. She has multiple languages. She was accused of persuading Renato to come down to Dili and attack the leaders. Now, the court would find that she wasn't responsible for that.
Right.
But
and you concur with that fairly well?
Based on the evidence, you have to concur with that.
Yeah. There are other people in play and other forces in play that could explain the attack just as fluently.
I don't think she necessarily liked these leaders at all, and she believed in Renato's cause.
Right.
And she'd only known him for a short time, but she was very passionate about him and believed they had a long life together, which they didn't. They had a very short time together, only a matter of months, really. But whether or not she persuaded him to come down to Delhi, you have to ask yourself, well, isn't it, as she says to me, well, he did come down and do this shit, didn't he? He did come down. He led 27 or 26 men down to Delhi into 2 bands. Yeah. You know, can she be accused of totally puppeteering that mess?
Not ahead of certain other people, no.
No.
It's not as much in it for her as for some other people, perhaps.
No.
Tippett points out, John Tippett, who benefits.
Yeah.
Really, in the end, who benefits? We won't go into who benefits, but there'd be other people around East Timor who might have benefited from those shootings. Yeah. That is the wounding of Ramos Horta and the death of Renato.
Yeah, and everyone benefited from Renato's death because it finally brought some peace to the country.
He pissed off everybody.
Yeah, he pissed off everyone, the Australians, the every political party over there, the leaders, the UN. Everyone could have wanted him dead.
What was your take on him? Did you know him very well?
I had a lot of long conversations with him.
What was he like? And he'd spent time in Australia, so he was someone who could speak to you in idiomatic Australian English, more or less.
Yeah.
He'd been around a bit. Now, as a boy, growing up in a fractured country, he'd been more or less slave labour for an Indonesian soldier. I think you described that he was smuggled out of the country back to Indonesia in a crate.
Yeah.
Is that in a crate on a ship? Is that right?
As a when they were hunting Shenana Guzmao and all the guerrillas during that period when Indonesia occupied the country, Renato had a job as an unpaid job. He was basically enslaved, loading weapons for his Indonesian army sergeant, who were fighting Renato's own countrymen up the hills and into the valleys. And then he was put in a box, put on a ship and shipped to Indonesia to be that same sergeant's slave for a number of years until he got beaten up and brutalised and escaped. And so when you ask, what was he like? I mean, at one point, I didn't really fully take into account that childhood and everything. He was a brash guy. He was a loudmouth, and he was sometimes really funny, outlandishly funny. And he wasn't like some people, in the military I've interviewed who might have had PTSD and have really deep, that sort of deep trauma and that despondency and that.
He didn't have that.
He didn't have that.
He was a survivor.
He was.
Yeah.
And
cock of the walk.
Yep.
Yeah, the Bantam Rooster. Yeah.
And so I sort of look at him in hindsight about, who he was. But I mean, there must have been some damage there, but he masked it very well.
But I guess it's the old story. It is said that after the revolution's over, the first thing the incoming government has to do is to shoot the revolutionaries because they cause trouble by nature, and that Renato sort of outlived his time in a sense and became a nuisance, a stone in the shoe of almost everyone else. Yeah. So take sort of your summary of it at the end of it is who killed Renato? Well, take your pick. Yeah, that's roughly your summary, isn't it?
That is my summary. I give you a long list you can choose from.
Yes, it's good. I noticed who was at the top. Yeah, that's interesting. Those who want to know would actually buy the book and look at that list and look at who's on top. Yeah. I don't know if that's a subconscious thing on your part or extremely conscious.
Who benefits?
Who benefits?
Everyone benefited, but some benefited more than others.
More than others, yeah. Good point. Yeah. Probably as far as we can take that, I suppose. I'm not sure how the laws of defamation go, us versus Timor.
Well, look, I mean, Australians have this notion, I don't know whether they do or not, but they used to have this notion of Shenana Guzmao and Jose Ramos Horta as, these kind of great saints and, these greatly moral people.
We got a very simplified version.
I think we've got the
cartoon.
The cartoon version. They are not those people at all. And, they're back in power now. They've lost power and they've, returned to power, and it's all about themselves.
So they're just politicians.
Yeah.
They're just doing the best they can in a...
It's just that one of them, Shanana, was a genuine guerrilla fighting Indonesians across the valleys and all that sort of stuff. He really was the real deal.
Yeah. And he looked a bit like sort of Imran Khan or something, didn't he? He was sort of dashing-looking fella, good-looking. He's hit a few. Yeah. He's hit a few hurdles too.
Yeah, well,
he had that touch, look of the lion about him.
Yes, I think he's still got a big hurdle, hasn't he? He's still in prison.
Oh, he's got a problem. Yeah, Shanana Guzmao married an Australian woman, Kirsty Sword, as she was, and she wrote a book years ago called Ruby Blade, I think. It was because that was her code name that she used when she met him and used to go into prison to, talk to him and all this sort of stuff. Right. Under the cover of, she acted for some charity, I think. Is that right? I forget exactly which charity or which group, but under its umbrella she was able, let's say it's Red Cross, but it may not be. It doesn't matter. Mm. She was able to get into the political, military prison, whatever, and see him.
I think he was under house arrest.
And she was able to sort of get herself back and forth, and she became very, very close with him, and ultimately they married. But I think there were some people in Australia who were a little bit frowned on this because they said, she'd clearly overstepped the bounds of diplomatic etiquette and probably made life a bit harder for some other people because then the authorities over there wouldn't want people like her to come into the prisons to visit prisoners after that. It was a problem, I think. But anyway, she didn't cover herself in glory in some respects, although she did become well known, and briefly at least, her book was sort of moderately big deal for a little while. Mm. She hit the high spots for a few months.
I think I've heard it wasn't, and this is one of the things about a Timor book, is like it's a difficult subject because Timor is a funny place for Australians. People sort of tune out to it a little bit. It's right there, right next to us. Like New Guinea, perhaps.
Yes.
And for some, less so than Indonesia. I think we're a bit more tuned to Indonesia, but not wider Indonesia, partly. But it's a place we don't know as much about as perhaps we should.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Hopefully, this fills some of that gap.
Yeah, interesting. I can remember I had a history teacher when I was a lad who was a World War II veteran, Mr. Jensen, a very tall, fierce man with, I think, a metal plate in his head. He might have been a commando or something in World War II, but he spoke glowingly of the bravery of the Timorese in helping Australian soldiers. Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's...
he would get tears in his eyes almost talking about it.
He might be referring to Z-Force?
He might possibly. Yeah, he said they were very brave and...
Yeah, I think the Timorese back then gave a great deal of assistance to Australian commandos who were trying to get in and undo some of the work of the Japanese in that area, yeah.
And, of course, there's that terrible... Melbourne in particularly remembers the slaughtering of the journalists, cameramen who were killed back in Our own newspaper here had a journalist called Paul Stewart, with whom I worked many years ago, whose older brother was one of the handful of Australian journalists who was slaughtered by the Indonesians back in the 70s. Mm. And it totally dictated the course of Paul's life. He lived under the shadow to some extent of his brother's death there, murder there. Yeah. And it was a terrible episode and possibly a shameful one. Maybe our government didn't stand up to the Indonesians about it.
No,
for diplomatic reasons.
Yeah, I think our government, which was the Whitlam government at the time, were fully apprised that the Indonesians were preparing to invade East Timor, and our government under Whitlam was fully supportive of that. Yeah. And prepared, its senior public servants to, advise them on, how should we know it's going to happen. Tell us how to speak to the public about this. How are we going to explain this? And just say, well, we've got to just talk to the Indonesians and say, well, we accept this, but, just allow us to distance ourselves from you a bit. So, yeah, it was a pretty shameful event.
I guess that's diplomacy in
Yeah.
in the raw.
Yeah, very much in the raw.
Yeah. There's smelly things happen. But, because we knew Paulie and worked with him, our listeners might recall his band. They were called the Painters and Dockers. Yeah. And they were a very good second-tier band, I'd say, who had all sorts of interesting songs. And, in fact, were once employed by the actual Painters and Dockers, the Federated Ship Painters and Dockers, to play at one of their functions.
And now the only dockers that matter, well, we know who they are.
Yes, the Fremantle.
Yes.
From Mantle. Those ones, they're good. Yes, the dockies are a thing of the past. Paul, the two books I've read in the last 2 days are your book, The Fatal Island, which is, of course, real-life journalism, serious, political, international affairs, life and death, real bullets, real blood. And the other one I've read is a very sort of light novel by the late, I think he's the late, Jimmy Breslin, one-time famous New York writer and journalist who wrote a series of novels, and one of the ones, the title has entered the language. It's called The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight, and it is a relatively lightweight satire set in the 60s about the New York Mafia, in a sense. Or it involves the New York Mafia. And it's just an entertaining read, and you couldn't take it seriously at all, except that it's very snappily written, tough, wise guy stuff. And it's easy to read and entertaining because Jimmy Breslin is that sort of writer. And it seems to me there's a similarity in some ways between your book and this, which you might find a ridiculous comparison. And that is, you've taken a real-life situation in Timor, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and you've written what could be a very dry account in other people's hands, a very dry account. In fact, in some people's hands you wouldn't be able to finish it. But with your chutzpah with the keyboard, you've been able to turn it into something that's both dark and funny and bleak and, to me, a whodunit. I read it to the last line because I wanted to work out where you were heading about who shot who and why. And it kept me going at 4 o'clock in the morning or something to get to the end of it. And I reckon you've Jimmy Breslin. Good on you.
Were you disappointed I didn't just name
there are legal reasons.
Yeah.
No, you're a truth teller, and the truth was it's too hard to call.
Yeah.
You can make a guess, but you're not in the business of guessing.
It is. It was, as Tippett said, it was Timor's I'm Spartacus moment. Everyone was holding the sword. Everyone had their hand up.
I did it. No, he did it. Oh, no, I shot him from several metres away. We're using this rifle.
No, you
and
didn't.
It turns out poor old dead man had powder wounds which showed he was shot very close.
Yeah.
At point blank range, not with that rifle at all.
No.
Probably with a handgun or something. And almost everybody was telling a porky or a version of the truth that suited them.
Yeah. A multitude of lies. And the net result, though, as you point out, is that probably it ended up about right because this revolutionary, this rebel, who'd caused
so much trouble, he'd sort of outlived his usefulness to a lot of people and was only going to cause more trouble for a lot of citizens who are busy starving away quietly. That the fact that he ended up dead probably benefited a lot of ordinary people as well. So it's funny how the world works.
Yeah, I think so. And, Tippett, who went there to defend Auntie Perez and fell in love with her and did everything against his professional obligations.
Yes. So you're not supposed to bonk your clients?
Not really.
How is it that Mr. Tippett is still with us? I saw him on television very recently giving the Darwin police a nice old serve.
Yep.
Because he's had a bit of a brush with them recently. He got full of ink and ran into a police car up there. Is that right?
Yeah. He did. He nudged a police vehicle at an intersection after he'd had a few.
A hot day, cold drink.
It was a hot day. I think his reason is that he had left some legal documents in his car. He didn't want to leave them in town in the car, and so he drove home.
Of course.
Whatever.
Then they took him into the police station.
They took him into the Palmerston Watch House.
And they don't love him up there because John Tippett is a very good barrister, and in Darwin, if you're in big trouble, if you're a bad guy in trouble, you get him because he's good. And therefore the police aren't inclined to love him unless they are in trouble, because then they'd hire him too, probably.
Yeah, they do.
They do. But a lot of the time he tears strips of them in court, and therefore they're not loving him. And so when he ran into a police car when he was well over the legal limit, alcohol-wise, some of them might have enjoyed it. And possibly they had film of him.
Yeah, they had, I think, I don't know, was it 39 or 38 minutes of footage of him in the watch house
having a bit of a
having a discussion, not offering bribes or anything, but saying let's these charges are a bit much, let's come on, Bruce, let's lower them.
Lower them a bit.
And so they released that to the media, or one particular media organisation.
That'd be a leak, would it?
Yeah, it'd be a leak, and which they've never done for anyone else. I mean, we would have liked to have had Bradley Murdoch in the watch house. His conversation.
Oh, would you? Now you're referring, of course, to the key figure in your previous most excellent book based in Darwin, which is
The Killer Within.
The Killer Within, about Bradley Murdoch and the Falconio case. There was, I think, 5 or 6 books written. And I think yours was, from memory, the last one, because you sat back and did it properly, and the only one worth reading of that group, because there were some stinkeroos.
Yeah.
We won't name.
I think sitting back and doing it properly, well, I still haven't got a royalty check for that one, but never mind.
Really? Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got an advance.
Got an advance.
Well, that's how it works. You get an advance and you never see another thing. A very fine book. Our listeners on Life and Crimes, they like a good crime book, many of them, and my suggestion is they go and get your book about the Falconio case, The Killer Within, which is a pretty damning case against Bradley John Murdoch for very good reasons, but a great insight into the whole thing and into the whole place, into what it feels like and smells like.
And I think it's about 25 years ago when he went missing.
Oh, yeah. It is, yeah. It's an anniversary of all the things.
Yeah.
Funny, the anniversaries come around very rapidly. I stepped in a lift in Hong Kong once in the early 2000s in the wonderful hotel there. It was at the Peninsula. And I got in a lift and I thought, she's very familiar. The lady standing right there next to me, and it was Joanne, whatever her surname was. Lees, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she was looking quite good, really, and happy and all that. They're living it up at the Peninsula and going up to the whatever floor, to whatever it was on, and leading the life. So it didn't crush her spirit, which is good, because she'd been through a pretty tough time. Interesting case, though. There are some aspects of it that are intriguing, but none of which I think makes you think that Bradley Murdoch didn't do it. Yeah. I think there are some unknown bits of it that have been probably written out of the official record because they were irrelevant to the actual crime.
Yeah,
I suspect.
And also,
that's fair enough.
Murdoch's family have been talking recently, talking about, Poppy, they called him.
Did they?
Yeah, and what a lovely guy he was.
Did they?
Never hurt a fly.
Wouldn't hurt a fly.
No.
He's the bloke that used to carry loaded guns in his luggage and shoot at
cable ties. Yes.
Cable ties. Yeah, that's not a good look, is it? The cable ties is never really a thing that gives you confidence about a person.
No. Tried for the double rape of a mother and daughter in South Australia. Got off that by the skin of his teeth.
Did he?
But that case featured the same sort of
cable ties. So he's got a bit of form in that regard, yeah. And basically he made a living, despite the fact he was a reasonably useful diesel mechanic or similar. He really actually made a living ferrying illegal drugs up and down the highways.
Yep.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
So he's not the Sugar Plum Fairy.
No.
He was a very large, nasty man with some bad habits.
He was a scary man. He was a extreme racist.
Yeah.
He was a nasty guy who drove around in this little den of hell, snorting copious amounts of amphetamines to keep himself going on those long roads.
That wouldn't
delivering the weed between South Australia and Broome in Western Australia.
Yeah. He's
Hidden in a gas bottle which he'd cut in half, and then just a lick of silicon. Cops would never look.
Very nifty. Very good.
Probably bring that one back.
Yeah. Yeah, you could. There's a lot of things. Paul Toohey, you've worked around the world. You worked out of New York. You've covered events all over the place, particularly in Southeast Asia. You lived for years in Darwin and sort of dominated the top end. I'll say that just to upset Lindsay Murdoch, who was also up there. I doubt that you rorted your expenses in the way that Lindsay undoubtedly did. And I know that because I've helped him do it. So he can't get me there. Your new book, would this be your fourth or fifth?
Yeah.
Roughly? Because you did one with the greatest title, Rocky Goes West.
Yeah.
Just tell our listeners in 3 sentences what that is about.
It was about the disappearance of Michael Rockefeller in Irian Jaya in the 1960s when he went looking for asmat art in the very, very, very remote tribal areas, and he went missing and never came back.
Never came back? No. Could he have been eaten?
Some people say so.
And of course, Rockefeller, if that name seems familiar, that is because it is.
Because it was the Rockefellers of New York City, the great industrialists, the great family empire.
One of the richest families in the United States.
Yeah, and so, when their adult son goes missing, it did at the time cause a bit of a stir.
It did, and it's thrown up. Rocky Goes West. But the book we're talking about today is called The Fatal Island, and it's
an imprint of Simon & Schuster.
Your usual publishers?
No, the first time I've worked with them.
Oh, I see. Yeah. They're serious ones, aren't they? They're New York and grown-ups, yeah, proper. Yeah. Does this mean you're doing another grown-up project, such as a Western?
I've been working on a Western. I have it published. I have self-published that one, and I'm moving on to talk to some publishers, I hope, soon about that. It's been optioned for a film, which is very exciting. But anything can happen.
Of course, and usually doesn't. Yeah. What's it called?
Bad Face.
That's good. I think that works. I don't think they'll change that. Bad Face. And is it a Western set in Northern Australia?
No. Nothing to do.
Nothing
to do with Australia.
Okay. You could set it anywhere.
I did. It's set in New Mexico during Reconstruction, so the 1880s or something like that. I didn't want to be pinned down by being. I just wanted to write about what I wanted to write about with this little Western that I've written.
Can Paul Toohey fans, of which I'm clearly one, could we go out and get one of those online?
Yeah, there is a place you can if you Google
if you can.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. So not just one book we're pushing here today, The Fatal Island, but Bad Face. If you're lucky enough to find it, keep it. Paul Toohey, thanks for coming. It's so good to see you after a decade, and I hope we see you again when you do your next book, if not before.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Life and Crimes is a Sunday Herald Sun production for True Crime Australia. Our producer is Jonty Burton. For my columns, features and more, go to heraldsun.com.au/Andrew Rule, one word. For advertising inquiries, go to newspodcastssold@news.com.au. That is all one word, newspodcastssold. And if you want further information about this episode, links are in the description.